Hello dear children, hope that all of you are having a good day. So in the previous class we were learning chapter 3 of EVS, that is solids, liquids and gases. So you have learned in the previous class what is meant by a solid, liquid and gas, and you have also learned the properties of solids, liquids and gases. So you learned that in solids, let us recall what all we have learned in the previous class. In solids, you have learned that solids have a firm structure, and as well as the particles in the solid are connected to each other. So because of that, solids have a firm structure. Then in liquids, the particles are not as connected as in solids. It is placed a little away from each other. So the liquid is not having a firm structure as that of a solid. So it will take the shape of the container in which you are pouring the liquid. Then gases, in gases the particles are not at all connected. They are placed very far away from each other. So because of that, gases can move freely, or it can assume the shape of a container. So those are the three states of matter that you have learned, that is the solid state, the liquid state and the gaseous state. So in this class you will be learning about the changing states of matter, that is how a particular matter can change from one form to another. You will be learning it by taking the example of water. So before starting the class, let me tell you children that water, it is the only liquid that is present on earth which can exist in any of the three forms. That is, in nature it can exist either in the solid form, that is ice, or in the liquid form, that is water, or in the gaseous form, that is water vapor. So let us start the class. So let us learn what is this changing states of matter. So children, have you ever tried keeping water inside the refrigerator or inside the freezer? I hope that everybody drinks water, isn't it? Everyone will drink water. And have you ever tried keeping it in the freezer of your fridge? What will you observe? You will observe that the water has turned into ice, isn't it? After a few hours, you can observe that this water that you kept in the freezer has turned into ice. So this water was in liquid form, and when you keep it inside the freezer, what happened? It has turned into ice, which is a solid. And at the same time, if you take that ice outside, if you take that ice from the fridge and if you place it outside, what will happen after some time? You can see that the ice has melted, isn't it? The ice will melt to form water again. And at the same time, if you take this water and if you boil it, what will happen? You can see that when the water boils, what will you see? You can see the steam that is arising from the water. Steam comes from the boiling water, isn't it? That steam or that water vapor is in which form? It is in the gaseous form, isn't it? So now you have seen that water can be present in any forms, isn't it? It can be either in the solid, liquid or gaseous forms. That means when you apply heat or when you remove heat, that is based on the temperature. Temperature means how cool or how hot a substance is. So when you heat or cool water, what will happen? Water will change its form from one form to another. When you kept the water inside the fridge, you are cooling it. So what happened? It turned into a ice, isn't it, which is solid. So as I said, water can change from one form to another by heating or cooling. When you heat water or when you cool water, it will change its form It will turn into ice or it will turn into vapor. Okay. Then if you freeze this water, what will happen? Water will form ice, isn't it? And when you keep this ice outside the fridge, what happens? This ice melts to form water again. Then when you boil the water, that means when you are boiling, you are adding up heat, isn't it? You are heating the water. Then what happens? When you boil the water, it will evaporate to form water vapor, which is steam or water vapor. That is in which form? That is in gaseous form. And after some time when you have seen this steam arising, just try holding a lid over this hot steam that is coming up. After some time you can see that on the lid, when the steam has attached over the lid, after some time this steam will cool again to form water. You must have seen, if you just close the lid of a vessel, or if you just close a vessel which is having any hot liquid, you must have seen the lid of that pot will have water vapor over it, isn't it? The lid, inside the lid you can find water vapor. That is what is happening. This water vapor has cooled, isn't it? It has condensed to form water again. Okay, so you have learned that water can change its form. This is very important. It can change from one form to another when we add heat, by heating or cooling. When we heat it or when we cool it, the form or the state of this matter will change. That means the state of water will change. So let us learn further about how these changes are happening. So children, I have given you the picture here. So if you look here, all of you look at this picture. Here I have given the picture of a glass of water. So in what form is water present? The water is in the liquid form, isn't it? So when you freeze this water, it is turning into ice, isn't it? Ice is a solid. Ice is in the solid form. And if you take this ice outside the fridge and if you are keeping it over there, what will happen? The ice will melt, isn't it? Ice is melting to form water again. That means this water is a liquid. That means the solid ice has turned into liquid water. And when you boil this water, what happens? The liquid water has changed into the gaseous steam or the water vapor. See, this boiling water is changing into steam. And what will happen if the steam cools down? If you hold a lid over it, you can see that what will happen? This steam over here, the steam is the gas. This steam has condensed to form liquid. That means the gas, steam or the water vapor, the gaseous steam, the steam which is in the form of gas, or you can say that the water vapor which is in the gaseous form has turned into water again, which is a liquid. These are the changes that you can see in water when you heat it or cool it. So here I have mentioned some terms: melting, freezing, condensation, evaporation, etc. So let us learn what are the meaning of these terms. Okay. So first let us learn about melting. So melting is actually the changing of a solid into liquid. See, melting means it is the process of changing of solid into liquid. If you look over here in this picture, you can see the solid is changing into liquid. That is called melting. When a solid changes into liquid, it is called melting. Then the next term that you have to study is evaporation. What is evaporation? Evaporation is the changing of water into water vapor. When does the water vapor change into water vapor? When we heat the water, isn't it? When we heat the water, this water is changing into water vapor. So if you look over here, you can see that the water is changing into water vapor. The water is changing into steam. That is water vapor itself. Okay, when you heat it, that is called evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which water changes into water vapor by heating. The next term that you have to study is condensation. What is meant by condensation? Condensation is the changing of water vapor into water again when you are cooling it. When water vapor, which is in the gaseous form, when you cool this water vapor, what will happen? It will again change into what? Water. The water vapor will again change into water when you cool it. That process is called condensation. If you look at this picture, you can see this water vapor or the steam has cooled to form water again, which is a liquid. That process is called condensation. Okay, the process by which the water vapor is cooled to form water again is called condensation. The next term that you have to learn is freezing. What is meant by freezing? Freezing is the process of changing a liquid into solid. So I told you the example, if you keep this water, which is a liquid, in the freezer, what is happening when you cool it? It is changing into a solid ice, isn't it? So you can say that freezing is the process when a liquid turns into a solid. Liquid is changing into a solid. That is called freezing. See, when a liquid is changing into a solid, you call it as freezing. So I hope that these terms are clear. I will explain once more. Melting means the change of solid into a liquid. I told you an example. If you keep ice outside the fridge, if you are taking the ice which is in solid form, and if you are keeping it outside, what is happening? The ice will melt, isn't it? It will melt to form water again. So the solid ice has turned into a liquid. So melting is the process by which a solid has turned into a liquid, or a solid is turning into a liquid. Then next is evaporation. Evaporation is the process when water is changed into water vapor. That is, the liquid is changed into the vapor form when you apply heat by heating. So water is changing into water vapor by heating, or on heating what happens? The changing of water into water vapor on heating is called evaporation. And next you have learned what is condensation. Condensation means the water vapor will cool to form water again. That process is called condensation. Water is turning into or changing into water again on cooling. That is called as condensation. And freezing is the process of changing of a liquid to a solid. Even if you keep a juice inside the freezer, what happens? It will freeze to a solid form, isn't it? So you can say that freezing is the process by which liquid is changing into a solid. So children, I hope that this much is clear for you. Again, you have to learn how the temperature is working upon changing of the states. Okay, here now you have just learned when you apply heat or when you cool it, the forms of water, how water is existing is changing. The forms or the state of matter is changing. In the next class, we shall learn about how temperature is controlling these changes. How is the temperature affecting the changes? So children, for your understanding, I will just repeat once again what all I have said. So in this chapter you learned the in this video you have learned the changing states of matter. In that you have learned that water will change its form when you apply heat or when you cool the water. So it will change from one form to another by heating or by cooling. And when you freeze water, what happens? The water that is solid is changing into ice. And when you melt this ice, what is happening? The ice which is in solid form is again changing into a liquid form. The ice has changed into a liquid. So, when solid changes into a liquid, that is called as melting. Okay, when solid is changing into a liquid, when we apply heat or when we are warming it, that process is called melting. And you have learned that when you boil this water on heating will evaporate to form water vapor. That is called evaporation. So, evaporation is the process by which a liquid, or you can say water, changing into water vapor on heating. That is called the process by which water changes into water vapor on heating is called evaporation. See, on heating it has turned into steam. Then next is condensation. What you have learned is condensation. In condensation, what happens? The water vapor is again changing into liquid water. The water vapor is changing into water again. Water is in the liquid form. When the steam is cooled, when steam cools. So, the process of changing of water vapor into water on cooling is known as condensation. Then the next term that you have studied is freezing. The process by which a water or a liquid changes into a solid. Here water is a liquid. The liquid changes into a solid ice. That process is called freezing. Okay. So, I hope that this changing states of matter is understood. So, remember that when you add heat, by heating or cooling, this water can change from one form to another. Children, I hope this much is clear. Please read your worksheets well. In the next class, we shall learn about how a particular temperature is affecting the changes of matter. Okay, that we can learn it in the next class. So, thank you children. I hope that this much is clear to you. Thank you.